little fight. Gonna turn this thing around. Can you read my mind? Can you read my mind? The good old days, the honest man, the restless heart, the promised land, subtle kiss that no one sees, broken wrist and a big trapeze. Oh well, I don't mind if you don't mind, 'cause I don't shine if you don't shine. Before you go and you read my mind. It's Quinn David Furness. It is a lazy Sunday afternoon featuring that song coming to you from The Killers. I am sick and tired. YouTube, please stop taking down the videos anytime I do covers. I don't know what else you want me to say. No, I don't own that song. No, I didn't write that song. Sorry for trying to pay tribute to The Killers. I guess I'll stop. This is Quinn David Furness, and wow, what a positive tone we're starting off with today. I am the host, I am the creator, and the best boy of Quinn David Furness presents the Beantown podcast. We are the people's podcast. We are one of Baltimore's top 500 podcasts. I want to make a distinction on that because I had a question this past week. People say, well, you mean Baltimore City or you mean Baltimore County? Because if you're including Baltimore County, then yeah, top 500. That's pretty impressive. No, I just mean the city. If it was, top 500 in the entire region, then hey, maybe that'd be a little bit more impressive. But no, just the city. I don't want to get too big for my bitches here. That's really been a theme from the start. Speaking of that, there was I'm glad my buddy Ryan Ligon, host of the Car Ride Convos podcast up there in Boston with Kristen English, he pointed out to me that PodCon 2, the sort of like Comic-Con but for podcasts and escape pods, is happening in Seattle, I think it's like January or February of 2019. And frankly, I think we were both a little appalled right off the bat, if we're being frank here, that there wasn't an invite. I think there was some sort of oversight, perhaps, in the invitation list. I'm not sure if they didn't spell the email correctly. So let me clear that up for anybody right now who's curious. You can always email us at beantownpodcast@yahoo.com. That's Beantown, BANTOWN, podcast@yahoo.com, and we will always be happy to answer. We'll get back to your emails. I tend to a lot of places, a lot of companies will say we'll get back within 24 hours. We'll get back to you within 24 days. So that's about 3.5 weeks. Just trying to cover my butt. But listener discretion. While we're just kind of going down the line of the semantics here, listener discretion is advised when you are listening to the Beantown podcast. Number one, we will occasionally throw some jargon around here and there. Number two, podcast is objectively terrible, as voted by me, the creator. So, quick update on where we're doing on Apple Podcasts, iTunes. Last I checked, we are up to 6 ratings, all 5 stars. So that is 30 stars. A lot of famous people, they'll have a Hollywood star on the Walk of Fame, and most of those guys just get 1 star. So frankly, to have 30 stars, I think, is a pretty big honor. I'm blessed by that. Please, if you are listening on iTunes or Apple Podcasts, or even if you're on Facebook, give us a thumbs up. But like us, subscribe to us. That's how we're going to get the advertisers. As everyone knows, I've been in a 7-month long battle with Jack Links to try to get them behind the podcast. That is ongoing. I will update you all listeners when I have some good news on that front. But the more stars we get, if we could even get one person to rate it 5 stars this week, then we'd go up to 35 stars. And all of a sudden you got a coup on your hands, per se. So please do like it, share it if you're listening to podcasts, you're talking about podcasts around the water cooler. Tell your friends, tell your neighbors. Quinn David Furness is coming in hot with podcasts every weekend. Thank you to those of you who do listen every week. I do really appreciate it. I'm always happy when I'm chatting on the phone with you guys, talking about how your life's going, and you tell me, hey, I loved that podcast from last week. That feels good. That means a lot to me. Tells me that what I'm doing is worth it. Although you could all stand up and tell me that you thought it frickin' sucked, and that wouldn't bring me down. I got that player mentality, and a player's going to play and a podcaster's going to podcast. So that's what we're doing here. Last couple weeks have been pretty structured, pretty organized. We've had specific things we wanted to get to on the podcast. Last week we told the story of the Crack Princess, which was awesome. So if you go back to the June 14th or July 14th podcast, you can listen to that story. We also did 10 Elton John hits from deep cuts that were worth checking out. So if you're interested in that, you want to expand your Elton John knowledge, go check that out. 2 weeks ago, then we were in Chicago. We had a Farewell to Farwell. That was a lot of fun. Had my buddies on, Stephen Boy, Ryan Sanger, Sean Young, even John Paul Pendowski of Podcasting Lore made an appearance right at the end. So if you listen to most of that episode but you didn't finish it, but you're thinking, where is John Paul Pendowski? He does come in at the end, I promise. He's got some fun lines. So that's what's going on. Today is much less structured, much less organized. Figured we'd throw a song back in there. That was The Killers, Read My Mind from Sam's Town. I don't own any of that material. I don't know how else you want me to say it. I never claimed it did. It's a great song. And otherwise today on the podcast, there's not a ton that I want to get done. I do want to, before we go do anything else, I have an email, a message here from probably the most famous celeb to ever grace the Beantown podcast platform. That is my grandmother, Sally. She sent a hilarious joke via email last night, and I wanted to share it on the podcast. It is straight from Grandma Sal. She is awesome. So let's without further ado, let's go ahead and read the joke from Grandma Sal. Here we go. A man was driving and saw a truck stalled on the side of the highway that had 10 penguins standing next to it. The man pulled over and asked the truck driver if he needed any help. The truck driver replied, "If you could take these penguins to the zoo while I wait for AAA, that'd be great." The man agreed, and the penguins hopped into the back of his car. 2 hours later, the trucker was back on the road again and decided to check on the penguins. He showed up at the zoo, and they weren't there. He headed back into his truck, started driving around town looking for any sign of the penguins, the man, or his car. While driving past a movie theater, the truck driver spots the guy walking out of the theater with 10 penguins. The truck driver yelled, "What are you doing? You were supposed to take them to the zoo." Man replies, "I did, and then I had some extra money, so I took them to go see a movie." Cue audience applause. That's straight from Grandma Sal. She says, "Thought you might like this because it's crazy," in all caps, just like you. Do appreciate it, Grandma Sal. Thank you so much, and I'm sure that the listeners, the subscribers out there enjoyed as well. There is a chance that we could get a little mini appearance from Grandma Sal coming up, because we have exciting news, something I mentioned last week, but I want to plug it again. Coming up on the podcast next weekend, we are going to be coming to you live from Anchorage, Alaska, where the sun never sets. It's about 19 hours of sunlight up there. It's going to be the first ever Beantown podcast outside of the 48 contiguous states, which is very exciting. Maybe the first podcast ever in Alaska. Yeah, really, there's no data, so we can't know whether or not that's true, but I might just start claiming that. That's really exciting. I'm going to Alaska. Two things I got to do. I either want to catch a salmon with my bare hands, or I want to catch a bear with my regular hands. So we'll see which one of those happens. I don't know which one is more likely to happen, but I'm going to go for one or the other, maybe both. But that's happening next week, and then the week after that, we are going to have a podcast coming to you live from Washington State, Camaro Island, where Dodge makes the cars, which is really exciting. But we are going to have a special. It's going to be our third special. So far we've had, and it's our Beantown Unplugged special series, right? This is not your grandmother's weekly weekend podcast. First we had my brother Jack and we sang a little Oasis, which might not even be on YouTube anymore because I don't know. I guess I just don't understand copyright laws, because I see people do covers of songs all the time and it doesn't get taken down. Apparently, when Beantown Podcast, one of Baltimore's top 500 podcasts, wants to get in on the action, they're trying to squash the little guy. So that's Obama for you. And that was number one. Number two, I talked about my personal day when I went to Delaware. It was like the first day off I had taken in a long time out of the normal work week. That was exciting. Talked about the beach, talked about traffic, typical Friday stuff. And this is going to be special number 3. So here it is. It is the roast of Quinn David Furness. I have heard through the grapevine that my grandpa Dave has some material. This is very exciting. We'll see if we can get Grandpa Dave going. We'll see if Grandma Sal has anything she wants to add. Maybe she just has some fun jokes she wants to tell. Because that's the thing when you're trying to roast somebody like myself, where there's just not much to roast about. It might turn into just a compliment thing. But who doesn't love some good compliments? And maybe it'll be an uplifting, feel-good podcast. We'll see. But we're going to get some family members on that. We've got some significant others coming, and we're going to get them to do some material as well. So it's going to be a good time. Look out for that in about a week and a half. Roast of Quinn David Furness is going to be happening live from the Pacific Northwest. So I wanted to make mention of that. Mention the email address. We're on Twitter. We are at BeantownCast. You can always tweet at us there. Don't get a lot of action on the Twitter these days, but I am active every week. Every time I'm posting, we're going on Twitter. We're going on my personal Twitter account at White Buns. We're on Facebook. So keep it up. This is how you build a brand. Speaking of building a brand, this might be the most scattered podcast yet, but these are things I want to say. So thank you for listening. Cuts by Q, that's Qutz by Q. A lot of you know my barber shop, my hair boutique, that sort of thing. We are up and running. We have been for years now. I just gave myself another fresh cut today. You can check that out on Snapchat or the InstaChat. If you are interested, you are in the Baltimore area and you are looking for a quality haircut for less, I only charge about $5-10. It's not bad. Also, if you need someone to walk your dog, I'm on Rover, so you can check that out as well. And I'm pretty good with a guitar, if you couldn't tell. So, got a lot of different talents that I'm throwing out there, always looking for extra cash. We're throwing it right back into the Beantown podcast. I've been doing some reading up on investing lately because I do the 401k stuff, the Roth IRA, got all that stuff going, but I've got a little bit left over, so I'm looking, how am I going to invest this? So I go to the NASDAQ and I'm thinking, okay, well, I want to throw this into the Beantown podcast because obviously I control it. I know how big I'm going to get. I know the market. I've done the research. Probably one of the best podcasts in this entire apartment building, frankly. I don't think that's too arrogant of me to say. Didn't show up on the NASDAQ, probably because I think NASDAQ is an acronym, NASDAQ, and I think there's only 6 companies as part of NASDAQ. It's like NATO only has, North America, Africa, Tanzania, and Oman, I think, is NATO. So yeah, it's an insiders club. It's a boys club. I don't want to be part of that. I'm not like Bette Midler and For the Boys. I'm not there for your pleasure, for your entertainment. But I want to put this out there. Stuff like that there, that's a classic song. If you don't know Bette Midler doing stuff like that there from For the Boys, I want some hugging and some stuff like that there. Stuff like that there. I want some loving, tugging, touching, stuff. I want some stuff like that there. Bette Midler is unforgettable, as was that rendition. Watch this. This podcast is not going to get taken down for the Killers. Apparently, it's going to be for Bette Midler now, although Bette's a saint. I know she's not doing it. It's probably Obama cronies or something. All this Russian, wiretapping and stuff. They're probably just going for the Beantown podcast. So, mercy. Did not expect to be singing Bette Midler on this podcast. There are a couple other things I want to get to. I do anticipate this being a little bit of a shorter entry than what I've been used to. Now, granted, I say this every damn week, and next thing you know, you're looking at it, and I say it around like the 15-minute mark, and you look at the length of the episode, and it's like 57 minutes, and you're like, oh, let's see how Quinn F's this up this time. I really don't have that much to talk about today, so don't be surprised if it is shorter. Let's see. We advertised the roast. We did our cover, told Grandma's joke. Quick little online dating check-in. There is a disturbing new trend. I want to do a little PSA here. Disturbing new trend in online dating recently. No one is swiping right on me. And that's really what I wanted to say there. I go through bursts in online dating where I'll do a couple different sites, usually Tinder, Hinge, Bumble, and then the Snapchat. If you swipe all the way to the right on Snapchat, it shows you like the different stories, and you got the dog ears, and it's always like showing off the ass in the mirror. So I'll do some Insta chatting on that as well, but I'll go for like 2 days where I'm doing a lot of this. Probably maybe once or twice a month I'll do it for a period of 1 or 2 days. And I'm in a period right now, and it's not going well. Not getting many matches. I don't know if everybody went to Ocean City for the weekend, or if everyone's at Artscape just too busy swiping, or what the deal is. But not getting a ton of matches. I do have a hilarious Tinder story that is actually very reminiscent of a Seinfeld plot. Because of the current circumstance, I'm not able to tell it right now, but I will get back to that story, I promise, once the time comes. Look for it maybe in August. Depends on where things go with what's happening right now. But I do have a good story waiting in my back pocket. I'm not just saying that. Otherwise, I haven't done too much. I really haven't been looking for a ton because I'm going on vacation for 2 weeks. August, I'll be around the whole month, so we'll see if we get anything back there. And then September, October, I'm gone. I'm gone for work. We're going to be having a lot of podcasts. This is looking down the road about a month and a half here. But we're going to have a lot of podcasts live from Chicago. Should be a good opportunity to get some guests on. We'll probably have a podcast in Indiana coming up here, maybe one in Memphis again. We did our first and only ever outdoor podcast, you recall, from late April. I think it was about April 28th, April 29th episode. We did it from the banks of the Mississippi, which is actually really cool. And there's some good ambient noise out there. I know I've been talking about trying to get that podcast Emmy for a while here, and the political episode with Beantown podcast political correspondent Nick Albano was a good one. But if you're looking for more of that natural aesthetic, the live from Memphis entry was a solid one as well. Don't remember what we were talking about, but I'm sure it was good stuff. So there's one other thing, excuse me, that I wanted to get to here, and it's a little bit of a lengthy thing, but I do have a decent number of people who are just inquiring about the movies I watch, because a lot of people know I'm a pretty big cinephile. I've probably, this calendar year, probably gone and seen, probably 45, 50 films or so. So there's a lot there, and a lot of it was in the heat of Oscars season, January and February. There's obviously a ton of great content happening on that front. But, post-Oscar season, I've actually been able to see a lot of movies that I really liked as well, and movies that you may have heard of. Some of them are, kind of mainstream. Some of them are, not as prominent though, and they're, it's way better. I hear people say all the time, ugh, there's just nothing good at the movies these days. Well, you're going to the, AMC 12 where they're only showing, the big action blockbusters and the stupid comedies and stuff. And sometimes those movies are fun, but there's so much more out there, and movies can be such a more enriching, more rewarding experience, and that's something I've been able to take advantage of and to discover post-Oscar season this year. So I want to give the rundown of a couple of movies. It's going to be more than a couple, at least decent list of movies I've seen this year that I really enjoyed. So I want to start off with The Death of Stalin, which has a pretty big presence, I think, internet-wide, of people who've seen the film. But The Death of Stalin is a comedy, a bunch of good actors in there, but two that come to mind are Jeffrey Tambor and Steve Buscemi, who plays Khrushchev hilariously. These guys come together. None of them are Russian actors. They don't use accents. They talk in their normal voices, which adds to the hilarity. It is obviously a partially true telling of when Joseph Stalin died back in whatever it was, the 50s, 60s, I think the 50s, and sort of the fallout from that, the scramble for power. It's just that they just threw a bunch of comedians in a room together, and it's definitely a dark comedy. It's fantastic. So if you like Buscemi, if you like Tambor, a couple other comedians, you can go check out that cast list. It's The Death of Stalin. It is side-splittingly hilarious. You Were Never Really Here was a Joaquin Phoenix one, kind of like John Wick a little bit, but it also touches a lot on the PTSD. I think Phoenix plays a Gulf War veteran in this film. There's going to be another movie on the list here coming up towards the end that is about PTSD. That's also really good. But this is a really solid entry, kind of like a John Wick, Jack Reacher type setup, but it has that PTSD aspect to it. It's Joaquin Phoenix. You can't go wrong there. He's got a little kid the whole time, so it's kind of like Aliens 3. So. Or 2, I don't remember which one it is, 2 or 3, whichever one has the kids. Indiana Jones 2, it's got, except it's not funny at all. It's really brutal, it's really violent. So if you're looking for a really good sort of thriller, I don't know if there are any other genres to include on that. Definitely a thriller movie. Go check that out. For everyone's FYI, I'm avoiding like super mainstream movies. So I saw A Quiet Place. I loved it, but I'm not going to talk about it because enough people have talked about it. The Rider was another movie that came out that I don't think many people heard about, but is going to be on a lot of end of the year top 10 lists. This film is awesome because it takes the main character, and a lot of it is based off of his own experiences. I'm not sure if he's professionally an actor, but his dad plays his dad. His sister plays his sister, and she has, I think, Asperger's in real life and in the movie. And basically, there aren't paid actors in this movie. It's about this guy who's a rodeo rider, and he suffers a concussion, and it really messes up his head, and he's not really able to do the thing he loves anymore moving forward, and he has to sort of navigate that, moving forward and figure out what is his life actually going to look like now that he can't do the thing that he felt like he was born to do. So that's The Rider. Really good, especially when you consider that those people aren't actors. This is just basically the way it happened. Looking through my list here, I'll mention Disobedience. That was Rachel Weisz and Rachel McAdams. It's a lesbian sort of love story, pretty sad. I don't remember enough about it to be able to give a really good sort of 30-second quip here, but if you like those two actresses, it's a solid entry. If you're just looking for some lesbian action, go for it. Who isn't, First Reformed, Paul Schrader, the guy who wrote Taxi Driver. Ethan Hawke, one of my favorite actors. I'm not sure why this film was released at this point in the year, because I feel like if you release this film in December and January, it's got a great chance of getting some award recognition. Paul Schrader did a good job directing. Ethan Hawke is an Oscar waiting to happen. Eventually, it's going to happen for Ethan Hawke. He's been nominated, I don't know how many times. Definitely for Boyhood. I think it's maybe he got something for one of the before or after movies. I'm not sure. I don't remember. But he's a great actor. The Purge, of course, Ethan Hawke, really carried that movie. But it's First Reformed. It's about a preacher who works for a kind of struggling church institution, and he butts heads with a mega church. And it's Amanda Seyfried in it as well, and she plays a little bit of a Mary situation. So that's First Reformed's Paul Schrader. Excellent film for sure. I'll quickly note on Chesil Beach, that was Saoirse Ronan. It's based off of a novel. It is a very sad, really sad movie about a couple who just gets married and they have some intimacy issues, and it's sort of the fallout of that, and it follows it into the rest of their lives as they, kind of do their own things. That's on Chesil Beach. Very sad movie, but a well-acted movie. I talked about American Animals, I think, on the podcast a couple episodes ago. This was a fascinating, true story of four guys in, it was like 2002 or something, and they went to try to rob a rare books collection at Transylvania U in Lexington. And the film kind of uses the I, Tonya way of storytelling, except instead of, they had Allison Janney play Tonya Harding's mom. Instead of that, they actually had the guys who did the crime play themselves in kind of that interview format. And then Barry Keoghan is kind of the high-profile guy as one of the actors. Really underrated heist film. I mean, it's got amazing social commentary sort of about the millennial generation, but it's an amazing heist film, too. Really good soundtrack, very well directed and edited. I've heard when it first came out, everyone was going crazy about it. I've since been reading some more reviews, and people are, not as happy with it. I don't get it because I thought it was a masterpiece. American Animals, wonderful film in and of itself, but the social commentary it brings with it as well was magnificent. I saw Sorry to Bother You, a film which a lot of people are talking about right now. Boots Riley, is that the guy's name? This was his first film. Kind of like Get Out. You'll be able to very easily make those connections when you watch the film. Sorry to Bother You is also a race relations commentary for sure, but it gets really weird, especially in the third act. There are some things that obviously I can't tell because it would completely spoil the movie, but shit hits the fan and it goes crazy. It is Lakeith Steinfeld and Armie Hammer in like the perfect role for Armie Hammer. If you liked him in Social Network as the Winklevoss twins, he's kind of back into that vein. It is the exact opposite of his role in Call Me By Your Name. So if you're looking for a good Armie Hammer villain role, that's Sorry to Bother You. Again, really good soundtrack, very well acted and directed. There were some missteps in there, especially towards the end of the film, but it is the director's first film. It's his maiden voyage, so I think we can make some exceptions for that stuff. But Sorry to Bother You, a film which I'm sure you've heard people talking about. If you're not already talking about it, go check it out because it's really interesting. And I had some issues with it, but the more I let it sit, the further out it's been. I saw it, a week ago now. Really, really solid picture, especially for a first try. And then last night, I went and saw Leave No Trace, a film which I've been very excited to see. Ben Foster and Thomasin McKenzie. This is from the director of Winter's Bone. What is her name? I was just looking that up the other day because I felt bad that I didn't know it because she's only had 3 films now, and it's Deborah Granick. She's had 3 films. First one was the one that launched Vera Farmiga's career. Second one is Winter's Bone, which is already about 7-8 years old. Of course, that movie is famous for getting Jennifer Lawrence into the game. And then this one is Leave No Trace. Ben Foster is a very underrated actor. If you saw Hell or High Water, that was him playing brother to Chris Pine, along with Jeff Bridges in there. So he's really good. Thomasin McKenzie, a newcomer, but I foresee her career taking off too because her acting in this was spectacular. She's from New Zealand, a Kiwi. This movie is about a dad and his daughter who live off the grid. You learn to find out this dad's got some serious PTSD issues. He's an Iraq War veteran, and they sort of get caught up in the real world, and it's the fallout from that, and a little bit of survival, a little bit of PTSD stuff, clash of opinions, dad versus daughter. One person's been through it all and is now on the other side of it. The other person is just beginning to go through it. So it's their conversations. It's that clash there. It is amazing. An underrated score for that film really adds a lot of tension and a lot of drama to the picture that you don't really realize while you're watching it. And that's what makes it so great. That is Leave No Trace. That one, I don't know. I haven't gotten a good enough feel for what else is coming out. But Ben Foster, I hope one of these days we'll get his, like Ethan Hawke, will get his Oscar. I don't think this wasn't an Oscar-winning performance for him, but it could potentially get a nomination. Really strong picture. Go check it out if you get the chance. There are a couple other movies I'd seen, but those were sort of the big ones that I wanted to make mention of. Yes, I'm caught up on my superhero films. I saw Black Panther, although I don't think I ever did see the Avengers movie, and I haven't seen Ant-Man. Not as interested in that, but so he says he's caught up on the superhero movies, and he lists one movie he's actually seen. So to give a quick rundown of what I actually just mentioned on that list, I also saw Solo, which don't have as strong feelings about it as I did for Last Jedi. In fact, it wasn't a bad film. It was just kind of bland, TBH. Oh, I want to make one other mention. Thoroughbreds. I forgot about that. That was a movie I saw back in February, January maybe. Thoroughbreds is kind of like American Psycho, but with two like 16-year-old girls. It is Olivia, is it Cook? Is that her name? She was in Ready Player One. She is an absolute cutie. I went to school with a girl who looks like her, and once I made that connection, I couldn't stop. Anyways, that was Thoroughbreds. If you liked American Psycho, Christian Bale, you'll like this. Again, another dark comedy. But let's see, on the list we had Thoroughbreds, Death of Stalin, You Were Never Really Here. I didn't talk about Isle of Dogs because I figure most people, it's Wes Anderson, you probably know it, but I saw that, loved it. The Rider, Disobedience, First Reformed, on Chesapeake Beach, American Animals, Sorry to Bother You, Leave No Trace. All those movies I definitely recommend. The ones that I have really loved so far, American Animals, Leave No Trace, Sorry to Bother You, I think I would need to see a second time to really get a good feel for everything it's trying to say, but that was a good picture. You Were Never Really Here, I would like to see again because that was really strong. And then First Reformed, I really like that film as well. I really like Ethan Hawke, and Paul Schrader is a master at what he does. So anyways, that was just kind of a mid-year movie check-in. Kind of gearing up already for Oscar season. We'll be getting into full swing in another couple months here. Mission Impossible 6 is coming out this weekend. I'm actually really eager because Mission Impossible 1 is kind of iconic. It's got the John Voight thing. The heist scene is awesome. Mission Impossible 2 is kind of a misstep. It's just kind of okay. 3 was great, but largely because of Philip Seymour Hoffman, played villain very well. And then 4, they kind of revitalized the franchise. 4 was Ghost Protocol. It's the one where Tom Cruise climbs Burj Khalifa. And just like they kind of got their new formula. They got their new crew of people. They threw Jeremy Renner in there. I don't remember if Alec Baldwin was in that one already or if he's not in until 5. But they got Paula Patton was in that movie. She is a pretty attractive lady. They brought Ving Rhames back. They brought... what's his name? The guy from Hot Fuzz. They brought him in, and they kind of got their new groove going. And that was number 4. Number 5, Simon Pegg, that's his name, The issue with number 5, which was Rogue Nation, was that it really didn't try anything different from number 4. And it really, it had 2 set pieces that were solid. It has the orchestra scene or the opera scene, which is good, but it's so early in the movie that you're not really ready for it. And there's a decent amount of tension, but it kind of seems like it's just a caricature of itself at that point. And then the underwater scene is great, where he gets saved by Rebecca. Doing a lot of Googling of names here. Not Rebecca Romaine Stamos, although I would love to see a Mission Impossible movie with her. Rebecca Ferguson saves Tom Cruise as he's kind of circling around underwater. But other than those set pieces, it's really kind of like, so I'm eager to see Mission Impossible 6. A lot of what they've been playing up for the set piece has been the helicopter duel between Tom Cruise and Henry Cavill, who plays, I think, a British agent in this movie. And that's cool because the trailers will always play up that one set piece. 4, it was Burj Khalifa. 5, it was, Oh, 5 was the opening scene from 5 where he jumps on the airplane and that sort of stuff. So we're going to see. I'm a little concerned that they're just replicating 4 again. And obviously 4 was great, but 5, it got a little sweaty. 6, if they do it again, then I'm officially going to say, like, this needs to be over. Tom Cruise can go find something else. I really hope at some point before Tom Cruise hangs it up that he does go back and do another, and will do another drama or another comedy role. Because the action stuff, Jack Reacher, Oblivion, Edge of Tomorrow, Mission Impossible, all that stuff, I mean, those are entertaining films, right? Those are solid action films. Tom Cruise knows what he's doing, and he does a good job, but he was so good in a lot of those films from the 80s and 90s where he plays that drama role. He's a really underrated actor, and obviously he's crazy, but he's a great actor, so I hope at some point he'll do that. Give us one more look into that before he decides to hang it up. That is pretty much what I wanted to say. It's been very rainy all weekend, although as I say that, I was looking in the mirror. I went for like a 7-mile walk this morning. I'm not running because I'm having some back issues, but somehow, even though it felt overcast the whole time, I got sunburned per usual on my walk. So it always happens. That's just the joy of having white skin. So, but it's been rainy. Artscape's been happening this weekend. Haven't really done too much with it because it's just so crowded and it's just gloomy outside. So today was my first day off in 2 weeks. Very happy to not be doing anything. Kicking back, I watched the Cubs win. They took 3 out of 5, a 5-game series with the Cardinals at home. It's a lot of baseball. They got 3 out of 5, which is great. Watching the NASCAR race live from, I don't know if you guys could hear that. It was thunder outside. NASCAR live from Loudon, New Hampshire. Jimmy's still looking for his first one of the year. I don't know how much left he's got in the tank, no pun intended. But we'll see if he can pull something out of his hat today. Otherwise, gearing up. Got a pack tomorrow night. Going on vacation, as I mentioned earlier in the podcast. That's going to be fun. So look out next week for us live from Anchorage, followed by the third entry in the Beantown Unplugged series, the roast of Quinn David Furness. Really looking forward to that one, particularly seeing what Grandpa Dave has up his sleeve. And then we'll have a live one from Camaro Island, and that will be fun as well. Otherwise, that's about all I got for you. As promised, it is a shorter entry. We are not hitting that hour mark. 40 is going to be a solid one for us. 40 minutes will be a solid one for us today. As always, thank you for listening. I really do appreciate it. I know people just say it on their podcast because it's something you're supposed to say, but it's awesome that I'm able to interact with people, whether I know you or whether I don't know you. Thank you for spending time, whether you're just listening to it straight up or you're commuting or you're running or you're cooking, whatever you're doing. Appreciate some of your time this week. You can always follow us on Twitter. We are at BeantownCast. You can email us, beantownpodcast@yahoo.com. That's Beantown, BEANTOWN podcast@yahoo.com. feel free to do that. And reach out on social media, InstaChat, Snapchat, all that stuff. I'm on it. You know where to find me, Quinn David Furness. This is my podcast, the Beantown Podcast. Thank you so much for listening. Enjoy the rest of your week. Be safe, and I will check in on you next week.